really like to have the basement, and if the stair is the issue, the owners would be willing to flip it so it faces the inward.
You would flip it so that it looks like it would be, you'd flip it just on the opposite side of that.
Correct.
Auxiliary.
Yeah, that small square form that you see, we would just flip that and have the stair then facing the inside.
Yeah, you could do that, and then the basement and allow you extra access and so forth. Well, you certainly, in my mind, and I'm speaking ahead of myself, I would say that certainly would meet the criteria. And frankly, you wouldn't have to have the 6-foot wall or a 3/6 wall. It faces inward, and however you want to decorate it.
Right.
I would understand that this is the building we're talking about, right?
That's right.
Yeah.
To the left of the gymnasium.
Yeah. Okay.
Great, thank you.
Any further discussion?
No, I'm okay with that. I just don't know how we're
Motion.
we're in frame of motion to get it through here.
Well, it's not
That's
one
why we
that's a
have
great, we have a lawyer here.
There were a bunch of lawyers.
Certainly will frame our motion, won't you?
I'm sure that our,
Well, is there a way that you want to see it, or you want to, you feel comfortable with?
I just think if it's located on the interior portion of the lot,
As long as you make it clear.
towards the residence, between the structure and the residence.
Yep.
That's where you want it, right?
Okay, we'll deal with that one first.
so we are going to break it up?
Yes.
Okay.
So may we have a motion on that then?
Now, this is the gymnasium portion.
This is the gymnasium, where the stairway is going to be located on the opposite side
The whole
of
thing-
the
the whole
structure.
thing slipped over,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
180 over.
Yeah.
On a horizontal axis.
Well, I'll see what we can do here. Let's try it. Nobody has to second this, I'll try it. I move the planning commission approve a special structures permit for a basement under the what is it?
Proposed gymnasium structure?
The machinery space,
Right.
with the stairwell to be located on the interior side, and the plan as we see it this evening is to be flopped over or flipped over 180 degrees. So the stairwell will be on the inside.
Was that clear? No lighting problems?
Not on that one.
No.
The sidewall will be 3'6" as shown.
It doesn't have to be though, right? Up on the inside?
Doesn't have to be.
No, it doesn't have to be. It has to be something, they won't fall down the stairwell.
Right. But that's,
You may want to leave it
Building
open.
code
that's for them
requirement.
to decide.
Yeah. That's a safety.
Yeah, that's not.
That's not our.
I'll second if the final wording is flip rather than flop.
So amended.
All right, Ray, we have a second then? You're seconding?
Second.
I'm second.
Oh, with the proper wordage. Any further discussion? All right, all those in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes, and the revised stairway location is approved for what I'll call the gymnasium building. Now we'll turn to the garage. Phil, why don't you start us off on that?
I think the garage is okay as it is. The sidewall should be at least 6 feet. The lighting we've already talked about. Lighting in the patio area of the garage shall be shielded so that it's downlit only. Otherwise, I haven't got a problem with that one right now. It's fine.
Which bench is this one?
Yeah.
Okay, well, I haven't changed anything in my
Oh,
thoughts.
then, basically, you handled both of them. Specifically in regard to the garage, is there anything?
Yeah, I think I handled that in later.
Yeah. Comments?
Send here.
Okay, And I too feel that it's fine, but still it's stuff. Let's have a motion.
I'll try it again.
Yes,
Okay, I move the planning commission.
you did so well.
A special structure permit at 12 Powell Lane for a basement under the garage area for the reasons enumerated in the staff report and subject to the conditions listed in the draft special structure permit to allow a basement under accessory structure under a detached garage with the amendment on the lighting.
And the wall.
And the wall would be 6 feet.
Yes, you too.
Second.
Both of those?
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All those against?
Who seconded?
Thank
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
Good. The motion passes 5-0. Again, if you wish to appeal the matter to the city council, you have 10 days to do so. Thank you very much. The next item on the agenda is a special structured permit for 82 Howard Way. Lisa?
Thank you. The applicant is requesting a special structure permit to allow a tennis court to be located in the rear yard. Tennis courts are considered detached accessory structures and are required to meet the setback of 8 feet from the main residence, 10 feet from side of property lines, except when the rear property line abuts a street, which is in this situation, then a 30-foot setback applies. We also have a situation in the code where structures less than 3 feet in height can be located within 10 feet of a property line. So how we evaluated this tennis court was that the court itself could be 10 feet from the rear property line, which is adjacent to Emily, but when we add the tennis court fencing, which is allowed at a 9-foot height, that would then trigger the special structure permit, since it's closer than would normally be allowed at that rear lot. As well, the proposal places the tennis court very close, right up adjacent to the main residence, where the code calls for an 8-foot separation between accessory structures. The main reason this code requirement's been in place for quite some time, and I believe the main reason is so that you can have access around accessory buildings and the main residence, and also for firefighting purposes, you can get around the lot and the fire doesn't necessarily jump from one structure to the next. So I think it's reasonable in this request to have the tennis court, since it's not exactly a flammable surface, and you could get around the main residence, be very close to the main residence. Due to the location of the house and the size of the lot, this really is the only location that could put a tennis court. They are looking at a singles court, and I believe the dimensions are listed. Commissioner, the chair may have some questions about the size of the court for the applicant. I can't answer those, given your high level of expertise. But staff is supportive of this. We also have another unique situation I just want to mention again. It's in the staff report, but that they want to take access off of Emily. And there's a very small strip of property, and it's kind of unique, that Sacred Heart Schools owns. So technically, they're going to need permission from Sacred Heart School, as well as an encroachment permit from the town. And then we've taken a look at the landscaping on that side in our arborist report. We're going to want to make sure that that landscaping is maintained along the Emily side. Anything they need to remove is going to need to be replaced, and we'll ensure that there's no heritage tree damage during the course of construction.
And the access is only for the construction period?
Only during the period of construction. So Kevin can answer any questions you have related to the trees on the site. Be happy to try to answer any of your questions, applicant as well. Thank you.
Any questions? Staff?
You want me to go first again? I want to.
No, staff, this is a good question to staff. Okay? No?
I've got a question. The reason this is an accessory structure, the tennis court,
Correct.
and the reason it can go, or you're thinking it can go up against the house basically, is because it's a non-flammable item that would allow, I mean, that's what I got out of it right now, it would allow the fire department to get in there.
Well, with a special structure permit. I'm not saying
Yeah.
staff would approve it by right. With the special structure permit, you can locate a tennis court on other portions of the lot. So we have some flexibility, I believe it's with pools and tennis courts with that special structure permit. So it wouldn't necessarily apply to a detached building. Just for the tennis court and pool, you have that ability to
Well,
locate on other
But
portions.
still, there's gonna be a fence, I presume there's gonna be a fence near the house.
No. Well, the applicant can answer that.
It's not on the plan.
My, against the house? I don't,
Well, maybe
You open the public hearing, or?
time comes for that.
okay.
So, continue with that though, but a garage or a pool house is also an accessory structure.
Accessory
So here we
building.
go, if we do this, what's the possibility that somebody's gonna say, well, you did it for somebody else, and I wanna put my pool house 3 feet from the main house?
Because the code doesn't have a special structure permit for that situation. It only applies to pools and tennis courts to be located on other portions of the lot. It does not allow you to grant it for a detached building.
It doesn't say no, it's just silent on the issue.
So therefore, it's not allowed. The code needs to expressly give you the authority to grant that special structure permit, and it's not in the code. So I couldn't even take it forward to planning commission that request. It's limited only to pools and tennis courts. But that's-
I'll buy that for the moment.
But that is a reason why I want to bring that section forward to talk about it, because we've had, pools where people want to have it very close to an accessory building, pool house, and then sometimes there's a spa and a pool, and are those detached or are those all one? So I want to have that discussion with the planning commission on the 8-foot separation. Get some clarity, so we can do that as a separate meeting as well.
Right. Items that we would study. Are there any other questions of staff?
So the reason that this is coming before us is it simply the separation to the main house, or is it, I just wanna.
It's the two
Understand.
items, so if
it's
it was
the
set back
separation from the house,
8 foot from the house, correct?
and then it's the fact that you've got this
Rear.
The 9-foot
the
fence
9-foot fence that's,
close to the rear facing street.
and what does the code say it should be?
Well, it says any structure greater than 3 feet in height needs to be 30 feet from the rear property line since it's facing a street.
This is a little different than the.
But you can have a fence on the front of your house.
6 foot tall.
Oh, anything above 6 feet.
Well, a 6 foot tall fence is allowed at pretty much anywhere on the property. Now, and it's not a necessarily detached accessory structure for setbacks. When it's a detached accessory structure, either, a shed, tennis court, then it has to meet setback requirements.
Right.
So the fence associated with the court is, I believe, 9 feet tall,
It's
which
gonna-
is allowed under the code, but then we have the issue of
Then we
its
have,
location.
then it's 30 feet.
So just
Because it's a
to
rear
be
facing.
clear, if it was a 6-foot fence, then it wouldn't be an issue.
Correct.
But it but
But then the ball's gonna go in the street.
it has to be a higher fence for the use, right? Is that what we're saying?
Well, the code doesn't require that fence.
Okay.
Does 3 feet make that much difference?
Well, it depends on how hard you hit the ball. And the applicants are very good tennis players.
So are you saying a 3-foot fence is fine for you?
Well, the
For me, yeah. I can get by with that.
Okay, Lisa, when I looked at the property, there is the back portion of the lot is, the grade is about 2 feet taller, higher than where the surface where the tennis court is going in. And I understood that there was gonna be this, a 2-foot brick wall or cement wall around the tennis court, and then the 9-foot fence was gonna go on the top of that, making it a total of 11 feet.
Well, we would measure the 9-foot fence from the average natural grade, so they can't artificially raise that.
Well, the grade has already been raised, in the back portion of the lot.
The grade is existing, you mean?
The
Yeah.
house is at one grade,
Yeah,
and then
and there's 2 feet
there's two
higher in
in the back,
when you reach
and that was a concern
so
that I
far
had.
down.
So what it does then is it makes it effectively an 11-foot fence, 9 feet of fence and 2 feet of ground. Right. Because I looked at the site, but I didn't look on the other side of it, but I looked at that too. Yeah, good point.
Wouldn't the average natural grade take into account?
Lisa, you're gonna measure that from the court surface, aren't you, the height of the fence?
That's how we would typically measure it unless, for some reason, the court was raised. Typically, the court is pretty much at grade. I mean, it's how most installations are. Obviously, it seems like a unique situation. But we can specify that in the condition.
That'd be a combination of retaining wall and
Yeah.
fence on the back line, next to Emily, would be no greater than 9 feet.
From top of the court.
I have a question in regard to the, let's say, backing up to Emily. The drawing that I saw shows that Sacred Heart retained a 4-foot strip between Emily and this property. Does that make it any different? You know, it's sort of a legal question, and maybe as a practical matter it doesn't, but I was just intrigued that Sacred Heart could have a 4-foot strip
I knew that.
across from, you knew that?
I knew that. That came up once before, because they wanted to be able to keep track of where driveways exited, so they did it by at some point holding on to a 4-foot strip of land, so if somebody wants to cut a driveway, their land.
Yeah.
That's pretty good control.
That's very good control, actually.
Somebody was thinking a long time ago, because you can't, how do you, it's not zoning, you couldn't do that.
No, no. You'd have to, well, you could have put a restriction in selling land and so forth.
But that's ownership, I don't think it's a.
Yeah, no, it's an,
It's not an easement or something.
no, it's an ownership. I've never seen, you know, property being blocked off.
It must have
From
been
a street.
pre-1929.
Yeah,
It's pretty smart though, you're right, it's very smart.
it's intriguing. But from a practical point of view, it doesn't make any difference in our interpretation of
Mr. Chairman, I got a comment on that. I noticed that too, and on the plans, it has a note that there'll be some plates put across there to provide access and protection for the trees. I talked to Sandy Dubinsky of Sacred Heart this morning, and this was all, she had received the notice, but didn't go any farther with it, and had no idea that this was coming. So I think we were told that they had, the applicant or somebody had talked with Sacred Heart. It turns out someone talked to a guard. I mean, that's about as far as it went, according to Sandy anyway. So she has no idea what is being proposed, and somehow I don't think any construction work can be done through the front of this property, so it all depends on what Sacred Heart has to say about the access and the encroachment permit for the tenant. So maybe they've got cart before the horse,
this.
Maybe the applicant can respond to
Yeah.
alternate methods of construction if they're unable to get Sacred Heart approval,
But what's the encroachment permit?
just to take that access off the road.
Oh, because they're not using a normal driveway.
Right, and that's generally granted. I mean, there would need to be a reason to not allow that.
Okay.
It could be they put restrictions on it that they can't exit during, you know, school pickup and drop-off hours.
Right.
Are there any further questions? If not, I'll ask the applicant to make a statement. I'm opening the hearing to the public.
Thank you. My name is Tom Clope. I'm the project landscape architect, and Peter Moore, the owner, is here in the back also. But thank you for hearing our request for this evening for this special structure. And it is a slightly less than regulation size single tennis court that we're fitting in within the setbacks, the 10-foot setback along Emily. And the tennis court is designed so that it goes right up against the house as paving, much like the existing patio does today. It slopes 1% away from the house, so we can get the water away from the house, toward Emily. And as you discussed, and correctly so, there's a 2-foot elevation difference that's created by that. So we would have a 2-foot high concrete retaining wall along the Emily side of the property that is outside of the 10-foot setback. And then on top of that, we are proposing a 9-foot fence on top of that, because that 9 feet is measured from the uphill side, but that we recognize as something that the commission can discuss as far as that height. Typically, there's a 30-foot setback in this situation, but we think that you could find findings that this is a unique situation, that there aren't neighbors immediately behind this property, and that it is a street and then the school across the way. Along the house itself, we are not showing any permanent fencing. If we were to put any type of a barrier, we've discussed putting some sort of netting that would be up in the eave that would come down, that would protect the house from the tennis balls. But there would be no permanent fencing of any kind, and we don't propose that. With respect to communicating with Sacred Heart School, I'm not aware of an official effort to do that. Our interest was in seeing whether or not we have a project at all that we could take to them. So that could be made, determination could be made by the commission to make the approval conditional to their approval of what we're proposing to do. And so we wanted to see if indeed we had a project that the commission would approve, so whether or not we had a project at all before we approach them. We did bring Michael Young, Urban Tree Management, the arborist, onto the project specifically because we know how unique and special those trees are, and we would make every effort to protect them. Construction traffic would occur, parking on the property itself. There's room for that. It isn't a large project. And it really is a family that they're tennis enthusiasts. They have an underutilized backyard swimming pool they seldom use. And this would give them the opportunity to practice tennis on their property. And so that's the purpose and the reason that we're here this evening. And I'd be happy to answer any other questions that you have.
Are there any questions by commissioners?
The only thing that I have more comments later, but the question I had about the drainage.
Yes.
Is the drainage going to be just off the backyard, or?
No, the drainage goes to a strip drain that goes along the base of the retaining wall, and then that would be conveyed underground into the existing underground system, which which there is capacity for. We are not increasing the square footage of impervious surface in a way that would complicate that.
Okay, thank you.
I have a question. Clarify your version on how that fence should be and why it should be on top of the 2 feet. Why don't you measure it from the surface of the court?
You can, and that's something that's the prerogative of the commission. So it could be the 2 feet of the concrete plus a 7-foot fence on top for an overall 9-foot height.
I'd comment that I think the players, this residents are expert enough to get by with the 2-foot retaining wall and the 7-foot fence rather than a 9-foot fence on top. I doubt that there'll be many balls going onto the street. Any further questions of the applicant?
Maybe one more. Parking, you said you're going to park on site?
Yes,
In front of the house or inside?
within the gated yard,
Within the gated?
within the driveway yard.
And no parking allowed on Emily?
There isn't any.
I know.
There isn't room.
And this is for, very nicely landscaped.
So the rear access is because of wanting to pull dirt out and incidental. The rear access that's being asked for is for?
You can't access it through the property itself. There isn't room to do so without major conflicts to the existing paving, landscaping, and parking that you need for construction.
So, so during the construction though, there'll be some vehicle that's there offloading a backhoe or something and then driving through that hole
Yes,
and basically stopped on that street.
It doesn't have to stop on the street, it could pull into that opening into the property.
Okay. All right. Okay.
Are there any further questions of the applicant? If not, thank you very much.
Thank you.
I see the applicants here. Do they wish to say anything? No?
Thank you for your consideration.
Then I'll close the public hearing, and we'll start with you, Paul. Start with you. How about you rescuing Paul, then Eric?
Well, I wanted to hear some of the other comments, because
Okay.
I think it's if you walked in and asked me, is this a good use of this property, I'd say no. If you said, am I comfortable making the exceptions based on the plan, I'd say no. So then I need to know a little bit more about precedents that we might have experienced previously, because right now there's nothing that would make me believe that this is the appropriate exception to make. So I'll listen to the other board members to inform me of, prior to my 5 months on the board.
Well, I'd be happy to lead off.
I wonder why.
It's a tennis court.
I know.
No, I think while I might not build such a court at my place, I think it's their right to build this type of court. They're both experienced tennis players, and their sons are good tennis players. They know the limitations of the court, and if they wish to spend the money on this, I think it has no effect on either Sacred Heart, Emily, or their neighbors. I think it's a use of land that is just fine. People, you could pave the backyard, and there'd be no question that it would be all right. The only thing that brings this into our review is frankly the length, height of the fence. I think the fencing on 3 sides. If they wish to bear the risk of the tennis balls hitting against the house, they can send their boys upstairs when they do it. So, but I think it's the type of thing that it's their choice. It doesn't harm any of the neighbors, and it's sort of an approval that they should be able to get. Who wants to follow me?
Okay, well, I'll be brave and go next. I guess, I don't think that it meets the setbacks from the house. I'm also concerned because it completely fills that space, and the noise from the tennis court itself is going to affect their neighbors, and so I think that should be a big concern.
Phil?
I visited the site on Tuesday, and Mr. Chairman, I feel much like you do. I would not do that myself, but it is their property, and if they want to put a tennis court back there and squeeze it in, and it does meet our requirements for a accessory structure less than 3 feet high, I would say yes. I would like to say that they should be required under the special structures permit to maintain the screening along Emily Avenue at all times, and that the fence, total fence height, including the 2-foot retaining wall, shall be 9 feet. But again, my property, I wouldn't do it, but it is there, so.
Okay.
I'm sorry, what was the fence height
9 total.
measured from
The court itself,
Court height.
court face?
2 foot retaining, 7 foot fence on top. Eric, have you heard enough, or do you want Paul to comment?
You can defer to me if you want, I can.
Yeah, I'll listen to you.
Okay, to me, you know, you can do whatever you want with your property if you fall within all the rules. If you don't fall within the rules, then you're sort of at the mercy. You know, because this is a flat tennis court, you know, I don't have any objection to how close you wanna build it to your house. That's sort of up to you. So for that part of it, I don't have a concern with. I do have a concern with the height of the fence along the public right-of-way, because it's sort of a double-edged sword that in most backyards, it's the backyard of somebody else. I mean, the good and the bad is it's along the public right-of-way, so it's not just your back neighbor who sees it, it's Sacred Heart, and it's everybody that drives down the road. If the natural grade is 2 feet, then, and you're measuring it from court height, does that mean that if you built it with 2 feet plus 5, plus, what would it be?
7?
You know, if natural grade is already 2 feet, I guess above the court height, which is, I think, what they were saying, then it sounds like you could build, you know, a
7-foot structure of some type.
You could build 7 feet from court, well, you could build maybe even 8 feet from court level and still be technically 6 feet for the code purposes. Is that, am I reading those?
No.
If you're,
What he's talking about is on this,
The natural grade, that's true, you should start out with the natural grade,
is
which
here,
is plus
and let's
2.
say the
and
effective
add
height of this
6.
is 6 feet.
So
And you'd
it's
still be
But
compliant.
if it's
and
down
you'd be
here,
at
like
the
they
height
dug it
of
out or
plus
something,
8.
let's say this is 8,
From-
that would be
from the
okay.
Yeah,
Herm, I
from
don't
Yeah.
think the natural grade is.
2 feet?
Is
Is that a
it
grade they're
plus
creating, or
two?
is it a natural
The
grade?
natural grade,
grade.
the
It's
back of the
natural
lot is
grade.
built up.
And if they had it 8 feet from the bottom of the tennis court, but 6
Well, you
feet
think,
effective,
you think it's
then that would be
artificially
within the rules.
the plus 2?
Yeah, so,
If it was natural grade.
I mean,
Right.
my
Okay.
bottom line would be to require them to build it 6 feet from natural grade. And I don't know whether that means they can build an 8-foot fence because they're down 2 feet.
It depends on the natural grade.
Right. So, at least on that side, I'd say they should comply with
The 6 foot.
what the
Do you see what I'm saying?
rules are. I'm not 100% sure how big of a fence that makes it.
The,
Are you thinking that it would then be a 4-foot fence? Or are you saying that it would be a 7-foot fence?
the grade of, the court is at the same level as like the house patio. As you move toward toward Emily,
Right.
there is a 2-foot step up. It's a step up,
That's all gotta come out of there.
yeah.
So you're saying that if you measured it from the natural grade, you get less of a fence, as opposed to more of a fence?
Emily is 2 feet higher than the tennis
Than the
court
natural
proposed.
grade.
I don't know that Emily is, but the back part of the
Yeah,
lot.
you're right, it is higher there.
And that's gonna be taken out, and it'll be all at grade, basically with the floor of the house.
But with the retaining
But,
wall.
I'd like to point out along, since I live a block and a half, along Emily there, it's pretty hard to really see over into the backyards of the people who back up to Emily. It's a lot of green and so
So it would
forth.
allow them to have,
If
let's
you
say,
have
a
a
cross section kind of
tennis
this,
fence,
and then, but they're gonna dig it out,
Some
right, so
of
here's
them
a
are
retaining wall,
green,
if
I don't
we
know.
measure from the
You
natural
know,
grade, you would
it's
allow
really
6
not
feet.
going to be
So effectively, they might,
sticking out
depending on how much they
besides
dig it
they
out
can
and what
plant
the
it,
natural grade is, they
thick
might
enough
get a
Yeah,
total
so
of
we
7 or,
a hedge or something like that to obscure.
I think
Any-
they feel more
any
comfortable. What Paul is
site
saying is that
that's
he wanted
itself.
just the 6
Mr.
total, and
Chairman,
then that's their problem, how much they want to get that.
Oh, yes, okay.
Yeah, if I could just make a clarification, keep in mind that the back of the lot is 2 feet higher, we're not adjusting the existing fence, so that is 2 feet higher than the house itself. We're sloping the tennis court 1%, so we're going down a little bit, and we're perfectly willing then to put a 2-foot wall with a 6-foot fence on top, so that effectively it would be the 6-foot fence that we would be allowed to put in that area anyway, so we can do that.
Yeah.
If they do that.
And there is a
if they did
lot
that,
of
would be
fine English floral screening all across the back of that property, which you never see it from
That would be
home.
allowed, yes.
So basically, the total height of your fence that you're going to put in on that side would be the 8 feet.
Yeah, yours, the 6-foot fence we would put on the 2-foot wall
Well, so
would
you'd have a total of
effectively
8.
meet the criteria that the town has for a condition
Right.
like that.
So
We
that-
would
that-
be in
that's within the
conformance.
That's what I was
Correct.
getting at, that would
Yeah.
then be within the code, and
Yes.
from your court level, you'd have an 8-foot
Yes.
fence.
Yes.
Yeah,
From the street level, you'd effectively have a 6-foot fence because of.
that's
the-
correct.
Yeah.
That's a
And
great
I would-
strategy.
I would say that meets the code, and then
Right,
it's
Yeah.
fine with me.
yeah,
And
and
that would
Mr.
be
Morris is
reinforced then.
agreeing to that tonight.
Well, but we still have the tennis court less than 8 feet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay?
I forgot 2 more conditions.
Shielded and downlit,
One.
no light.
No night.
I already got the lighting in there.
All right, number 5, I guess, would be all construction parking to be on-site. Number 6 would be conditional approval of the special structures permit is based on Sacred Heart approval of the entry off of Emily, and the encroachment permit approval of an encroachment permit from the town of Atherton.
And while we're talking on conditions, I'm concerned about your earlier condition that they shall maintain the screening along Emily. They don't have control over that
No,
screening.
no, inside, on their
Oh, thank
property.
you.
That 10-foot setback is what you're referring to.